our meetings. You're more than welcome to come, but once you start coming, you'll be at every one of them. That can be contagious. We'll start off the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. Mike Davis, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Pat. All right, the minutes. Did everybody receive their minutes? Through email or through snail mail, which is the U.S. mail? Did anybody not receive their minutes? Please raise your hand. Okay. Good job, Danetta. Good job. Was any changes that need to be made to the minutes? Well, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes be approved as stand.
Second.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Thank you. The financial report. Ms. Betty, could you give us a financial report, please?
I wasn't here the month of July, but in June, our balance was $4,806.01. This is in the checking account. We had income of $455.83. Of that, $85 for dues, $340 for books, $30 for shirts, and 83 cents for interest. Our expenses were, I got the wrong report. No, sorry. Our expenses were $336, $16 for shirts, and $50 was, $230 was for postage, and $40 was for the ad in the Houston County High School annual and the football program. Our memorial account was $2,894.82, and our CD is $10,536.06. That's the right report. That's what you wrote.
I apologize for that. I gave that approval without calling you
What's that?
to go ahead with the ad.
Oh, no. You didn't do that, did you, man?
I'm sorry.
You act like
Don't-
you,
yeah, I'm sorry.
you act like you was the president of this club one time. Do we need to make the motion to have it approved?
I think you have to involve money in the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Everybody approved, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for bailing me out.
Well, let's slide this time.
No.
We need to pass the budget as stand, right?
What?
We need to make a motion to pass the budget as stand, or just let it ride?
You need to make a motion.
For the budget?
Oh, the financial report?
Yeah. Or,
You can do that.
I don't know if maybe fail me out. Make a motion for the financial report to pass as stand.
So moved.
All right. Everybody in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. I got some real good news tonight. Yeah. We have a brick report. Vanetta James done some really good work here in the last month.
Okay. I'm going to order bricks. Let's hear it.
Yay! I've got 25 brick orders. If anyone wants to order one, I'm going to get Betty your money tonight and fill it out. They have gone up on the price, but not, we're charging $75 for the bricks, and that was to cover laying them also. And they've gone up $10 a brick, but we're still okay. We've still got enough to cover the cost of having them in the park. So, yay! That's the brick report.
Did you get it cleared up where they can be laid yet?
No, but we're going to store them in the basement. If we may go ahead and lay them, it just, Lori said go
Laying
ahead.
out there on the sidewalk till somebody says put them in the ground.
Well, Lori said go ahead and order them, and
That's good. That's
so if
good.
anyone wants to get a drink, $35.
We could lay them over there in that hole in front of the library. They need something to As long as they wouldn't wear out.
They might disappear.
I don't know, they look like they fixed it pretty good this time.
Yeah, it's got a cure for about, it was when it finishes, it's about 30 days, and that's why they can't get reloaded, and that's why it's, I don't understand.
Everybody needs to go by the library and tell Kay how nice she really is, because this has been hectic on her and the members over at the library, but they'll get back in the swing of things. Melissa, do you have a report on the archives, please?
Those of you that have Facebook or get on Facebook, I've been posting the last couple of weeks, maybe to a month, every day. A Today in the Archives post, and it's usually a copy of a document or a photograph or something from the archives that we have. And I'm doing that to put out awareness of the archives and also to show people what we have. And to show people what we would be interested in if you're interested in donating to the archives or bringing it by to us for us to make copies of. And so since I've been doing that, we've gotten some visitors that have come by the archives, which has been really great. We've had several records donations since I've been doing that. And I wanted to tell you about some of them. Judge Benson and his sister Nancy donated a partial newspaper from 1964 that shows the local election results, which was very interesting to have. And then the really interesting one is they donated a partial Houston County Times newspaper from November the 6th, 1886. And I don't believe we have that on microfilm. It's not the full newspaper. It's interesting because the whole front page of the newspaper is nothing but national news. There's no local news on the front page. And in fact, that was when the election had taken place on November 2nd of that year, so there's election information there from the presidential and national elections. But more interesting is an article on there where they dedicated the Statue of Liberty. So it's very interesting. But there's also local advertisements inside there, but it's the original paper and it's very delicate and it's kind of falling apart. But they donated that too. Some of you may remember a lady who used to live here. Her name is Mandy Riley Williams. She came by the archives and she brought us a whole stack of original documents and photographs to copy. And they all have to do with the Lockhart family. And these documents date from the 1800s. They're original deeds and original documents, and then the photographs are all her family. And she also brought us 2 items having to do with the schools. One was from 1961. It was a picture of an 8th grade classroom. And then the other one was in 1942, and I wouldn't call it a yearbook per se if they didn't have yearbooks then, but it's where someone had taken it's like a memory book, but they had taken, looked like photograph material and cut out pictures and different things and put them in there of all of the students. So it's from 1942 for Erin High School. She has left all the material with me to copy, which I did, and she says she's coming back in September and going to bring us another large stack to copy and pick up what she left. So that's really been very, very awesome. We also received, so I think, one of the more special things we've gotten here lately, an original painting that was done by Alice Miles. It was donated by Jared and Ginger Lyle via Carol Lowe. She brought it to me on a very rainy day. We were trying to wipe it off. This painting is very large. I don't know, I was going to ask, I can't think of your name, Debbie, if you could look at it and tell me what kind of medium it is. If it's, I don't think it's oil, but it's on canvas. But it measures 25 inches this way and 63 inches this way. And we believe it's in a handmade wooden frame. I don't know when it dates to, obviously before she died, but it's signed A. Miles, and we think it's a scene here in the county somewhere. There's buttercups, but there's no leaves on the trees. And so it's it's a beautiful painting, and they were gracious enough to donate it to the archives. And so I thank them for that. The last thing is actually something I bought myself that was on eBay. It was a matchbook from Fraulein's Beauty Shop.
Fraulein.
Fraulein. Okay, thank you. Fraulene's Beauty Shop. And this gentleman from New Jersey had this matchbook, and it still had the matches in it. And I think I got it for $5. And so I donated it back to the archives. We just don't have the budget to purchase things, and so that's why I always have to rely on people to find these things and get them for us. But this one, it was about to get lost, and I just didn't want it to get lost, and so I purchased it, and we have it now. So it's very, very neat. The only last thing is that we're August 26th, the hopefully, cross your fingers, the county will pass their budget, and that means it will pass the budget that we submitted for the old jail to get the shelving and to redo the doors and things so we can put more record storage up there. So we're still waiting for that to happen. Well, when that happens, it will relieve a lot of records that are in the vault and in the archives area so that we can kind of spread out a little bit more and also process more records. We'll have places to put them. So that will be a relief for us. But please, if you have anything that you would like to donate to the archives, we would take it. Or if you just want us to make copies of it, if you're not ready to let it go yet, I understand that. But we're trying desperately to save history. Today, I will say one last thing. Today, there was an article printed in an Illinois newspaper about an Erin resident. Some of you may know him, Roger Howell. There was this article, and this is history. Some of you may read it and go, well, okay, that's an article. This is history today that will be history tomorrow. And it talks about he has got a horse and a wagon that he's traveling from here to Michigan. And it talks about he's from Erin, but it's in an Illinois newspaper, and it was sent to me. So this is even kind of stuff that we want. And the lady that sent it to me said she could actually get me the original newspaper. So just please be aware that, we are trying to save our history because we've lost so much. The Historical Society tried since their inception, I believe in 1983, to save and to collect as much as they could. But there's still a lot that's been lost that we would really like to try to get back. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa, for the hard work that we've done, because I've been down there a number of times, and I know y'all really working at it. Okay, the new business. It's getting that time of year for the leadership to do their classes again. And last year we sponsored one of the members for the leadership class of 2012. And I'd kind of like to put it up for discussion if we want to sponsor one this year. And if anybody in the Historic Society would like to take the class this year. I got any comments on this? The cost is $210 per member, so. And the sign up.
We sponsor another one next year.
I'll second it.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? If anybody would like to take the class from the Historic Society, talk to either me or Miss Betty or Vanetta or William or Alan. Yeah, Alan.
And Leah.
I have.
Yeah,
Leah has
because they have the application. And if you haven't been through it, it's really nice. It really is.
How many here have been through leadership?
You get that arm up over there, Jerry? You didn't have your hand up, did you? Has Jerry been through your earring?
No.
No. They went through it last year, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I know that's actually some kind of hearing about how nice it was down at the retreat. Anybody else got anything they'd like to add before we start our program or any new business? All right, then. I guess we'll start our program. We got a really nice program tonight. It's Learning History Reenactment, or Living History Reenactment. And we got Mitch and Jane Latch to do the presentation for us, and we sure do appreciate you coming to our meeting. Welcome. You want these lights on or off?
Halfway.
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 Okay, we'll try.
Ready?
Well, welcome everybody, and if you don't know us, we're Mitch and Jane Latch. We moved, he's hiding behind me. Anyway, we moved here about 7 years ago. Before we moved here, we used to do living history reenactment at a little place in Chattanooga called Autobahn Acres. Better? Can you hear me now? It sound like a Verizon commercial? You're supposed to say hello too.
Hello.
There you go. He can talk without a mic. I can't. Anyway, before I forget, because I always do this, Autobahn Acres sent us a whole bunch of brochures, and there's brochures at the very end of the little display over there. Please pick one up, because most people don't even know Autobahn Acres exists in Chattanooga, and it's a really interesting place. That was my little plug for them. Anyway, your turn.
Autobahn Acres is a sanctuary in Chattanooga inside the city limits. I think it's East Brainerd, 132 acres. It's a wildlife sanctuary, partly part of its heritage as a result of the owners at one time. I think it's Chickamauga Creek that runs through it, and to date they've got trails that have been prepared that even though it's only a very small piece of property, there's 4 miles of walking trails and bird watching trails and that sort of thing on the property.
We used to do summer camps for kids there, and it was fun taking them canoeing and hiking and everything. I'm sorry, canoeing, hiking, and everything else. You're going to have to do some. Next one. And you're my clicker. It's my non-text clicker. All right, can you see it? The southwest corner of the property is home to Little Owl Village, and it's named for one of the best known occupants from the little village, and I was very blessed to be able to do an archaeological dig for the 5 or 6 years that I was out there. And I did the dig with Dr. Nick Hunterkamp from UTC, and he actually let me keep some of the archaeological finds we got that he had many duplicates of. I've got some arrowheads and trade beads and stuff that are over there in a jar you can take a look at. It was a lot of fun learning that it was something where I'd be digging through and he'd go like, no, not fast, do it really slow, and I learned a lot that way. And through them, we met a couple that she and he managed a mill in Belvedere, Tennessee called Falls Mill. And we got involved a little bit in the Mitch actually made the mill pit that they're using to dress the mill up. It's kind of cool. But Spring Frog, I'm going to skip around on you, I guess, here. Spring Frog was the Cherokee naturalist that actually built the cabin that we did our reenacting in. And Spring Frog was, and he actually ended up going on the Trail of Tears, but he ended up dying over there in Oklahoma.
Speak louder.
I know my clicker moved. Anyway, Spring Frog cabin was bought by the Walker family. And the Walkers, Robert Sparks Walker is a very famous person. He actually wrote about the stuff for our centennial, and he's a wonderful author. I have the 2 books that he has written, As the Indians Left It and Torchlight of the Cherokees, over there if anybody wants to look at them and borrow them. But the Walkers ended up with the cabin. They had 14 children in a small cabin that we're going to show you in a minute. And they have 14 kids in a little bitty cabin. It's okay.
Here you go. There you go.
Oh, wow. I'm in hog heaven now. Anyway, the cabin, I lost my train of thought, that's sad. Anyway,
14 kids.
14 kids, which is amazing when you see the size of the cabin. But Walker formed Autobahn Acres, and he, in Chattanooga.
I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
And actually, he passed away there. He's buried on the property, and his gravesite's right there close to the cabin. In the morning, when we got to wake up, we got to see him. But we're going to go into a little bit of what we did. Mitch used to do a cross-cut saw demonstration out there at Autobahn Acres, and I forced him into blacksmithing, but what actually happened is it was a rainy day and I introduced him to my blacksmith. person that never got hooked on it that way. He actually got assimilated into the blacksmith community. This is the main room in Springfield Cabinet. Actually, you're standing on a complete other wall looking at it. That is your full main wall. People are doing stuff. Anyway, this is where the Ladies of the Hearth, which I was a member of, we used to hear Nancy here all the time for people. As a matter of fact, we used to host the board once a year. We decorated them for Christmas, and I know one year I found a snake up there, and I actually thought it was a snake and grabbed him, and I found out I could throw a snake all the way across that room very quickly. But Michelle's up there making biscuits.
One of the things in the old days that they would do is they would cook outside and or do wash outside. And I was asked to make a spit for Autobahn Acres so that they could have it to use for some of their demonstrations. And this is a picture of what is a picture of a reenactment, I guess you might say, of Laundry Day. They actually boiled clothes in a big kettle. And that's their fire, we call it fire ring, but it would be a place of business for them for carrying on their everyday, all normal work for that type of homestead. Chip-off-bill block here. That's my son on the right and my daughter on the left. They also participated in all of the events that we participated in. We would actually get them checked out of school, and they would receive credit for the school day because they were being taught by us and by the people that were demonstrating at the Autobahn Society. I'm sorry, Autobahn Acres. I don't know exactly what they're doing there. It could be that they're cracking nuts. They had nut cracking stones, and we did a lot of other things too as well. You'll see pictures a little later. A lot of games that the kids played back then that you never see happen in today's world. But one of the things that we did try and teach them and the public and other school children, because we did this during the week, and then on the weekend we did it during the week for school groups, and they bring in busload after busload after busload of school children, and then on the weekend we would do demonstrations for the general public, and so they learned a lot and we learned a lot as a result. Jane's flipping through these pretty fast, but one of the original programs that they had, the biggest part was how to cook over a fire. And we used a regular wood fire to cook with. And if you went to any of the demonstrations, you'd realize back then cooking for especially a family of 14 was going to be a full-time job for somebody. They would start the fire in the morning and it would go until lunchtime, and it would start it again shortly thereafter and get ready for supper. You're talking about a lot of work to actually prepare a meal. It's not like today where you can prepare a meal in just a matter of a few moments. What can I say? Some of these are photographs that the newspapers took. I guess the children were something to see that they didn't see very often in this type of environment, and doing and learning the sorts of things that they learned. The papers seem to come and take pictures quite often and show them doing various things in the paper. Christmas Past was an event we had approximately Christmas time, and then they had other events as well, but Christmas Past is one of the big ones, and so the cabin would be decorated for Christmas, and the food that they cooked would be similar to what they might have cooked at Christmas time years ago. Okay. Well, Jane asked that both of our children now, Michelle getting close to 30 and Joseph's going to be 28, and she asked them, tell us what pros and cons of your experiences, what you remember from back then, and here's their answers that they sent us. From Michelle, the good part, being able to run around in wide open spaces and not have to worry about whatever, going to the mall and finding a parking spot or something like that. The people involved in the reenactments, as a general rule, I call them salt of the earth type people. Good people, really care about the welfare of those that were being taught and those that were learning. She also is tuned into the politics, so she didn't like a lot of the politics and drama, so to speak, of the goings-on of the organization itself, not the reenactment part, but the, so to speak, political entity, the business entity, I guess you might say, of Autobahn Acres, which I was on the board for a while, so she probably heard more of it than she needed to. Joseph, he said he thought it really promoted creativity, and it opened his eyes that you don't have to depend on all the technology that we have today if you don't want to. It's really a good way to be knowledgeable about the differences so that you can keep your focus in life. One of the things he noted was being without power and that technology allow you to be creative. And he said the biggest con is being too young to realize the pros are the pros are pros. He mentions being an accident-prone person, being an accident-prone person. That was his personality, not so much the program, but it does give you an appreciation for good health care in today's world. He bled a lot.
One of the things we used to do as ladies of the heart was have 4-H cooking classes out there, and we would teach the kids to starting from scratch how to do it. And I sort of laughed at Michelle's comments, because she said she couldn't look people in the eye and whatnot. If you notice, like up there, she's carrying one of the girls' piggybacks, so she kind of did have a good time even though that she was out there. Those kids related better to her, I think, than they did to the other ladies that were out there. It was nice having somebody their own age teaching them. It gave them a really good perspective of connection. We learned to do a lot of things, including making our own clothes and whatnot. And this is a set of shirts. I love this picture. It's my two guys. Anytime we went somewhere, we tried to learn something. We followed a lot of the Laura Ingalls Wilder living places. And everywhere when the kids would make notes and bring home note cards and show us stuff we needed to change and whatever. They were our worst critics. And if you've never been to the Museum of the Appalachia in Morris, Tennessee, which is north of Knoxville, we learned a lot up there. And we always take pictures and take notes of what we liked and what we didn't like, so we can change what we really have. And it's a cool place if you've never been up there, especially at Christmas. They decorate. Even when we were in Ireland, we found picking areas and asked questions on how they did things and what methods they did. My daughter thought it was fun because we got in stocks, so we were bad to her. She helped me a little with this. Now, unfortunately, this is how much I lived in the blacksmithing. I had a blacksmith for about 4 or 5 years, and Mitch ended up becoming a blacksmithing, into blacksmithing because I introduced him. But these are just some pictures about the historical craft, because we included this a lot in our demonstrations out there. And our son started blacksmithing out there when he was 9. And you'll see a lot of pictures of him showing off places. I think this one was at Craters, this one here is at Craters Mill in Darnell, Georgia. And I think that's one of the Chichi Forge in Chattanooga. Tennessee Valley River. This is him at 9. He'd show up at the county fair making knives. And yeah, he even made me help him half the time. We'd be out there demonstrating. And our son was always on the paper front in Dalton, Georgia, every Craters Mill. And when he turned 16, they would not take his picture, and he could not figure out why. And I told him, I said, well, you're cute, but you're not the same cute as you were when you stood on the stump to pound on the hammer. And when Craters Mill celebrated their anniversary, right now I cannot remember what year that was, they took a picture and they invited our son to be Bud Blacksmith in the anniversary picture. It's what they use for their promotions now. I know it says established. And I don't know if you know who Judd Nelson is, but he was the famous blacksmith from the Foxfire books. He was in book number 5. And when he retired, he asked our son to help forge in the new blacksmiths. And my son forged in the new blacksmiths at Judd's retirement. I read the information. This is my son Joe in his best ever famous person that he wants to be when he grows up. It's Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson makes, and I'm going to get wrong, the tomahawks for the Special Forces. Special Forces can order their own tomahawks, and he's the one that makes them. He made us a smoker's tomahawk. It's over there on the table. You should take a look at it. The work is gorgeous. That's right, we got it just for time. And the current blacksmith at Autobahn Acres is Hugh Valley when he comes to demonstrate. You can also catch him at Cades Cove near Gatlinburg, and I think he's also doing some demonstrations in Jamestown. But he's a lot of fun. If you ever get out there and see him, he's a lot of fun. And we hooked him into it. It's like an ambulance sales thing. You just keep getting all the blacksmith. I know you knew I had to get a picture of my son in there, but when he got married a year and a half ago, he made skin-do knives for all his groomsmen, and those are little sock knives. And if you look in that little bitty diamond, you can see one of them. Each one of them has one, and that's a practical one, so it's a utility knife for your groomsmen.
One of the programs that we began was creating gardens at Autobahn Acres. Being on the board, got a little latitude sometimes. But anyway, tried to do traditional things when we did do gardens. We stuck with the things that Cherokee and or Robert Sparks Walker may have grown in those days. So it was always heirloom. But they also, the ladies of the hearth really enjoyed good herbs, so we started several herb gardens as well, right around the cat himself. And let's see, all of this is done using old techniques, so you lost a lot to various insects, bugs, and rodents and varmints. But I still practice that method of gardening. I work hard to grow more than I need so that the animals can get their share and I still get something to eat too. I learned that the hard way. These are some of the gardens. These are before photos. They were at the time, the herb gardens were in really poor condition. So basically we took it, tore everything out and stirred the dirt and put back good herbs and plants and relevant, right, to the types of cooking that they did and might have had at the time. And basically, we're talking 150 years before we were actually doing these historical displays. And these are some of the end products. You have it colored as well as, because they did plant the nicer things and the pretty things, but you also had things you could use in cooking. Some of the things you use to dissuade the critters is imitation humans, but some of the scarecrows were used to keep the crows and so forth out of the gardens. Our children had nothing to do with that. Handicrafts. I'm just going to go. Handicrafts. We, as a family, I don't know where. I mean, as a philosophy, I personally grew up out in the middle of nowhere with no funding or money available to me except what I earned. So I learned to do stuff myself, and I always say I learned to do it the hard way, but in reality is I learned to do it the old way. And so we've gotten into, over the years, we've gotten into a lot of different types of things. We believe that if you actually use your gifts, you'll be given more, and that is so true. It is just unbelievably true that when you build something, quite a bit of what you learn can be transferred to the next project or the next craft that you want to learn. So we've done a little, between the whole family, we've done just about a little of everything, so to speak. We've made brooms, we've woven, we've spun, and by the way, there's going to be a test near the end of this, and I'm not going to give away all the answers, but there's a lot of things that we take for granted today, and that's some of them that we don't realize how lucky we are having expensive cloth and that sort of thing. We also practice fun things, I guess you might say. We, with the children, we would do odd things. Some people call it odd, but we went to Northern Ontario, actually, I guess it would be Northern Ontario, and did some mining on a very small scale, thank goodness. And even then, we brought back a whole bunch of rock. But this is for we were amethyst mining, pardon? Yeah. But it's using more than one craft, you know, the tools that we use are some that I made. Nope. She put me on the spot here. She said, I'm not going to say a word, and then she makes me do half it. No, I'm just kidding. Here are some of the photographs or copies of photographs that were actually printed in the Chattanooga Times Free Press. And these were usually front page of the living section, which is about the third or fourth section of the paper. It would always be on the Sunday edition. And as I mentioned before, quite often they were our children doing odd things, but you can tell they're really having a terrible time. They just love it. So, oh, I know what this is. That was then, and this is now. We grew up a little bit, and we've grown up somewhat.
I would love to tomorrow,
All right, now I'm gonna go into our test. We're gonna go into our test. Quite many of you may know the answers to these questions or observations, but some may not. You go through all this learning, and sometimes it takes years for you to actually learn some of the important stuff. And one of the things we learn is what is the most convenient thing we have today in our world. So that's the first question. you think about all the conveniences that we have, really, what is the biggest convenience that we have in modern society? Running water. Running water. It doesn't
Have running water without electricity.
it doesn't, not necessarily, not normally. But you're exactly right. It doesn't even have to be hot water. Just having water available. We used to carry water.
Two sticks to rub together, you can get hot water. Oh, isn't that wonderful?
We would,
Oh, thank you, that's beautiful.
we would carry water. And I mentioned earlier the cloth. We have done spinning and we have done weaving and we have no idea today how valuable that piece of cloth is right there. It is a tremendous amount of work. I know a lot of it's done by machine today, but if you have to fall back and make it yourself, that's a full-time job, especially the way we wear our clothes today and wear them out.
When you see the cloth where they build up from hundreds of thousands of years ago, they're very good cloth.
Rugged,
It's rugged, and it's spectacular.
coarse, and strong.
But after he's sewn it, and I've woven it, and I'm sewing it, I don't even want to wear it. Because I'm gonna get the fire to get coals on it and stuff. I don't want to wear it.
It's improved. Donated to the Historical Society.
One of the other things that is a real convenience I mentioned earlier too is healthcare. We have a government, that was another thing. Depending on how you view it, the government can be a plus or a minus, but we have a government and in a society that we value safety and we value being able to take care of yourselves if you do get hurt. And we had a few instances of that over the years. It's just good to have good people to back you up when you make a crazy mistake, cut yourself or something like that. And you just got to think about it. They didn't have that back then. It might have been a day to go to town. And so, am I done?
One thing I wanted to add, Cindy and I, when we did our Ladies of the Heart, we went different places and they actually trained us and we got to get into the archives for recipes and different foods and stuff. The home place up here in the Land Between Us is fantastic. They have a back room that is acres of files and I think we spent over 2 weeks up here one time. The Tully Smith House in Atlanta also opened their doors to us and let us actually do demonstrations with them and learn a little bit about them. They're at the Atlanta Historical Museum, and they have a whole farm. You actually go down, and the farm's down there, and you don't realize the whole city of Buckhead is around you once you get down there. It's really cool. And Bullock Hall in Roswell, Georgia is a really good inspiration for us. And you don't remember that? Let's see, that was Theodore Roosevelt's mother's house. But you remember back in the Jimmy Carter days, do you remember Miss Sissy and the front porch and all that? That was in there. Roswell was on the same street. It's really cool. Anyway, does anybody have any questions for us? We found a lot at you guys and overwhelmed. I didn't know what Banana wanted from us. So we were okay. And we thank you for asking us. We used to love you with us.
This recipe made from skill.
Oh gosh, I think I could count them. I do have a story about
But they're
that.
so good, I'll tell you.
They are.
I did one.
And I do have a story that this wonderful group come through and the kids were asking about how we do biscuits. And I was always starting to explain how we put them in the dough bowl and so on. Formed them, put them on the hearth and cooked them. How we adjusted our fire with the different coals and stuff. And one of the older men in the back said, well, I like wampum biscuits. Because if you're in a chair, you have it, I'm like, wampum biscuits. He said, you take a can of wampum. And it took care of our demonstration. No, nobody has any questions?
Source with your trade. What I find amazing, when you look at the food what they grew to be compared to what we see today, shows on the school thing. But it's a part of, and I know it's just a part of what started the involvement of the ball field. And the center of that was the blacks. It's kind of the center of it.
I agree. Pardon? Tell stories about that. You have a good point.
I was gonna say, not only that, it's the ingenuity that came up to make those things, because we had a lid lifter that Lodge donated to us to lift the lids off the pans, and we're going, this is wonderful, but it would never stabilize.
You get down on your knees to use it.
So the other blacksmith, my first blacksmith, anyway, a real blacksmith, he and I designed something, we've got it over there, it's actually got two fingers one way and another finger another way with a curl, and when you grab the lid, it stabilizes and it just, you can pick it up and move it better, and we call it ingenuity, which is a bad thing to say now, because everybody would poke at us.
It's really important to realize that having a stable lid when you're taking it off and say a batch of it, stay horizontal so you don't drop all that ash and coals in your movement. So it's important to have it stay where it's supposed to stay in the orientation for staying good.
When I asked the kids what was the most unique or their favorite dinner that we made, I went out to roast dinner haunch that we got. We had covered it with molasses and roasted it. And it was like a barbecue, but it was sweet barbecue. And I just thought, oh, so kids love that.
And an important thing to note in that regard is even though the food may have been crude, they could still cook it where it tasted good. You didn't have to suffer through the wild taste. You didn't have to suffer through some of the other problems with crude food because they knew how to cook that type of food for their purposes back then.
She would refuse that, so I put it in there.
Thank you, Mitch and Jenny. Well, our next program is going to be September the 10th here at City Hall at 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday. And we're having Billy Frank Morrison, who is former president of the Montgomery County Historic Society. I think he's vice president now. And he's going to do a program on postcards. He's wrote 3 books on postcards, and he has a lot of interesting local postcards too that he's going to send to us. So, without further ado, is anybody got anything they want to bring up before we close the meeting? All right, thanks again for everybody showing up tonight.
New York, visit some friends in Vietnam. And then gonna leave New York and go to Florida. Gonna come back here. Gypsy wagon is good.
They're located at Gray's Crossing there in Tennessee Ridge. That's on Highway 49. That's Ace Hardware. You can reach them at 721-2500. Ace Hardware, your friendly hardware place. Signature Healthcare, where quality of life is their mantra. Located in the Arlington community of here in Tennessee. They can be reached at 289-4141 for any information you may need. From a dream to reality, Traditions First Bank. They can be reached at 289-5500. It doesn't matter whether it's a banking account, a checking account, buying a car, or house there. Check them out. Houston County's only hometown bank. Children daily, whether it's a simple volleyball or show or anything. Just to keep it
and electrical, and heating and air conditioning for all your plumbing, electrical, heating, and air conditioning needs. Call us at 931-289-4301. We install rude, reliable heating and air conditioning products. Call us at 931-289-4301. Call us today.
Again, that's Arnold's Heating and Cooling, and their offices are at 2211 West Main Street here in Erin, Tennessee.